Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Omaya Kaboom here. This is the first episode of Kaboom Cast. I told you. I mentioned it. I said it. I said once we get 5 subscribers, I will release new content. And what did I do? Got 5 subscribers tonight. Thank you. I'm releasing a new content. I'm blocking off the rest of my nightly schedule to make this podcast. Because of you, 5th subscriber, I really got to hand it to you. You surprised me. I thought maybe at most that I have like a week or two to plan this out before I got my 5th subscriber, but it didn't happen that way. So I just had to pull something out off the cuff, but I appreciate it. No, seriously. Thank you guys for actually joining me. I've seen the buzzword brand out there. You know, what is your brand? What do you want to accomplish with your channel? Who is your target audience here? Are you trying to market to? But let me tell you something, Jeeves. My target audience, my brand, it's my 5 subscribers that I got right now, because that is the purpose of this video. But why a podcast? Why am I doing this? Well, it's going to be first. It's going to be a lot of experimentation and a lot of firsts on this channel. I've always wanted to do a Let's Play series, so I started that. I've always wanted to do a podcast, so now I'm starting that. I mean, I got to give you guys a break, but you know, what is my focus here? What am I going to do with this channel? I don't know. My focus is the 5 subscribers that I have right now. If you do have a interest in any nerd-related culture, whether it's gaming, movies, epic music, books, TV, I think you've come to the right place, because that's what I'm going to focus on with this podcast. We are talking nerd culture. What I want to talk about, especially today, is a movie that I watched the other day. It's called The Matrix Resurrections. You may have heard of it. It stars the guy from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. His name was Ted Theodore Logan. He was in Speed, not in Speed 2 Cruise Control, but he was actually in Speed, the one with the bus. I'm talking about Keanu Reeves. And also Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix Reloaded, and The Matrix Revolutions. I mean, it got some clocks turning. Now, I don't want to step on any toes here. I know it has mixed reviews, you know. From what I gather, half the critics like it, half the critics don't like it. Audience seems to be mixed as well. I don't think it was a bad movie. The movie was a love story. I mean, that's obvious. It wasn't your typical Matrix action movie that I don't know. I just really did not see the point of this movie being made, but maybe I'm wrong. As a story, did this really need to be told? I felt that the first trilogy, you know, as convoluted as it was, it had an arc. It had Neo, you know, on a journey, and he sacrificed himself at the end of that journey, and his sacrifice meant something. I mean, by the end of it, Neo went to the architect of the machine, whatever, and sacrificed himself, and you know, that was it. Story's over. Arc is complete. I don't see why they actually needed to make this movie. I mean, other than the obvious, right? That The Matrix was a huge franchise 20 years ago, and they want to cash in on it. I get it. You know, it's one of those things where I don't think it needed to be made. What does it really bring to the Matrix universe at this point? Like, you killed Neo. You spent 3 movies building up to that, and then you just bring him back. Now Trinity is also like the one. But yeah, so spoilers will be abound in this podcast episode. I mean, I just don't see a need to actually revive this story, because everything seems to have been told. I did like the new character Bugs. I thought she was a really awesome character. There were some nice asides or some nice homages. You know, I like that Neo had to sort of be resurrected again like he was in the original trilogy. You know, we've got a new ship, we've got a new captain. All right, I can see that this is the Matrix of a new generation, and the tone is completely different. Okay, so maybe in the future you're planning on doing a lot more with this, but the series could have been left alone. 1 through 3 was enough. Maybe I'm just looking at it all wrong. Maybe there's some huge loop that I'm missing that didn't even strike me. But really, what this got me to thinking was, what other movies and how many other movies have they made that really did not need to be made at all? And it's something that's been actually bothering me for years now. I used to love going to the movie theater. I mean, I used to love movies. I mean, they were my thing. Like, movies, I would go to the movie theater at least once a week. Just movies that were coming out, they invented, they redefined. But then everything that was coming out was a remake. Because remakes have proven box office success. They're easier to market. Nothing could have drawn anybody to, indie movies better than Hollywood could. I mean, Hollywood has done the best job of bringing indie movies into much bigger prominence and focus, just because of all the, of all the derivative movies that Hollywood makes. So, you got to give Hollywood credit for allowing the independent filmmaker and the independent film scene to flourish. Got to give that a hand. But it really got me thinking, because I used to love going to the movie theater, and I like that blockbuster experience. I'm glad for Marvel movies. Say what you will, they're not free of criticism either, because that's basically everything they make now too. Are these are box office draws. It was always a fun experience for me. So if I'm going to the movie theater, I was always much more comfortable, sitting through a blockbuster movie than something I could wait for Netflix. Like, I could see on Netflix. I could wait to stream it. So I think it's good that we do have these influx of, Marvel movies and superhero movies, and, that box office draw, that there's still an entertainment value there. So I was actually doing some research before I recorded this, just to get some ideas for, what movies really didn't need to be made. Then I came across House of the Dead. Wow, I remember that movie. And if you want to talk about a movie that didn't need to be made, it was House of the Dead. Actually, any Uwe Boll movie, you can question why that needed to be made. If you don't really remember Uwe Boll, he's a German filmmaker who is famous for actually not only making terrible adaptations of, like, really obscure, not very popular video games, with the exception of, like, maybe like Far Cry, like House of the Dead, Blood Rain. Like, why does he pick these random, like he just picked he like scraped the bottom of the barrel for like the worst games to make the worst movies out of. And I mean, Alone in the Dark was a great franchise, but that movie just did not need to be made at all. But House of the Dead especially, it was an okay arcade game. I was always a fan of Time Crisis, personally. I didn't really care too much for House of the Dead. It's just a rail shooter. Why does that need to be a film? We have plenty of zombie films. George Romero, which Uwe Boll certainly is not. We have no reason to make the House of the Dead. I used to play a lot of Alone in the Dark when I was really young, when I was a kid. I had One-Eyed Jack's Revenge, if you remember that one. That was a fun game. I played a lot of that, mostly because they kind of made it like Resident Evil. It came out, I think it was like either the same year, maybe even a year before Resident Evil. But that I played a lot of that game and I enjoyed it. But the movie just didn't need to exist. What else did he make? He made Dungeon Siege movie. In the Name of the King, I think it was called. I didn't even see it. I wish I'd seen it so I can comment on it, but I did not. I've read reviews and I'm glad I didn't see it. Far Cry, I forgot this movie even existed until I was looking through Uwe Boll's resume on IMDb and I saw Far Cry and I was like, wow, I forgot they made this movie. Yeah, I think it was back in 2008, but obviously that's forgettable because I haven't heard anyone talk about it. It's probably something they wanted to forget. Since we're on the subject of zombies here, we're talking about House of the Dead. The horror genre has really been guilty of this. How many horror remakes, reboots have we been inundated with? Like, guys, I didn't ask for the second remake of Black Christmas. I didn't see it. Maybe it was good. I'm not commenting on that. But why did you remake a remake that was a remake? Like, they remade Black Christmas, back in 2009? And then they remade it again. What else? The Halloween sequels weren't that terrible. I don't know. I could be wrong. I didn't think they were that terrible. Halloween 4 was pretty good. Halloween 3. Now look, I said it. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And let me tell you why. This is a good movie if it's called Season of the Witch. The reason that it's such a bad movie or has such a bad reputation is because it has the word Halloween in it. And you only see Michael Myers. I think there's a character in a bar, and like Michael Myers appears on the TV in the background. That's his cameo in the movie. I get it. They wanted to market that. They wanted to put the Halloween name on it because they didn't think it would. But that movie's creepy. It's got a good like cyberpunk soundtrack to it. It's got a really cool atmosphere, set design. It's creepy as heck. I mean, these kids, they put on this mask and bugs just start like coming out of their eyes and stuff. So we're just gonna say Season of the Witch is its own sort of movie. Halloween 4 was pretty good. I thought I liked that. I actually don't remember Halloween 5. 6 I didn't really care for. What was the other one? Halloween H2O with Josh Hartnett. Nah, that was okay. And then I know the Busta Rhymes one. Everybody hated that. But I don't know. There was a Friday the 13th remake nobody asked for. There was a Child's Play remake I certainly didn't ask for. I think that actually did well. From what I hear, I know Mark Hamill did the voice of Chucky, which is cool. And Audrey Plaza was in it. I didn't see it, but I think people generally like that one from what I've read. Man, what kind of what kind of podcast is this here when I'm talking about movies that I haven't even seen? Yeah, I told you I used to love movies, but I just can't watch any of this Hollywood remake stuff. Like a good indie movie we'll talk about all day. Like I mean, what's the last movie I saw? I think on Netflix. Oh yeah, we did watch the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, the Don't Look Up. That was all right. Yeah, you know, it had its moments when they remade the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That really brought this new wave of let's reinvent every horror genre, every horror villain we can. But the one that really irks me, the one that really sticks out to me, was the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I do like Jackie Earle Haley, Rorschach. I did think he did a good job in that movie. His performance was good. I don't care if you're Jackie Earle Haley. I don't care if you're Anthony Hopkins. I don't care if you're Robert De Niro. The character of Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, the spirit of this character is Robert Englund. There is just no way you are going to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie that has anything remotely new to say, unless Robert Englund is in it. Robert Englund could have still done the Freddy role. I don't know why they didn't do that. He did Freddy vs. Jason. It wasn't that much earlier. I would like to see an older Freddy, like an older Dream Demon Freddy. Like that's scary as hell. There was no point of remaking a Nightmare on Elm Street. It wasn't scary. It wasn't Freddy Krueger. It was just why? Why did you remake that? Did you really think that you use the name of Nightmare on Elm Street? That was going to do it for you, that was going to make millions of dollars, that was going to be your ticket? No. The name Robert Englund is what draws people to Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, Wes Craven, obviously, may he rest in peace as well, the master. Oh, that's another bummer, man. All these great directors and, you know, actors. Sidney Poitier died today. You know, they're going on the wayside, and it's there's no point to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie without Robert Englund. All these reboots, these rehashes, these reimaginings, what you call them, they're just cash cows. It's just, people are afraid to take chances, take risks, do anything new, because money's on the line. They want a tried and true formula of what is going to get us the most money. And it's just really disheartening because, Hollywood I'm not going to say that Hollywood wasn't always about money, but there was a time when they took risks. They took a lot of chances on new directors. There was one in particular named George Lucas came around. Another named Steven Spielberg that almost got fired from Jaws and would have probably not had a career in Hollywood after that had it, not been a success. But it's just a new time. It's just a new time now, and I think I guess the passion I've had for movies has sort of waned. But tell me I'm wrong. I mean, post in the comments like what movies I should be watching, what movies I need to watch that are really going to sort of reinvigorate my passion for them because I've been dejected. And what's up with all these Disney remakes? Like the live action Disney remakes. Like how many Cinderella movies has there been? There's got to be a ton of them. Beauty and the Beast was forgettable. Aladdin was forgettable. A Lion King was a joke. I don't know. Cats. Why did they remake Cats? Why did that get released? Why does that movie exist? I don't know. I don't even think it made a lot of money, did it? It probably lost a lot of money. Disney movies, horror movies, these video game adaptations. There's a new Resident Evil movie out. I didn't even bother to see because that's the movie that should have came out years ago. And what is it with these? I was watching another one the other day. I was watching Mortal Kombat. That is another movie that does not need to exist. I understand that it exists because it's a new generation and it was bloodier and more fatalities. And the last movie we got was from the 90s, which is a very underrated movie. I might, if I do a future episode of awesome video game movies, I'm definitely going to talk about the 1990s Mortal Kombat because that is a good movie. Like it's just regular people up against extraordinary circumstances. Like Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, they were just regular people. They didn't have superpowers. This new Mortal Kombat, everybody's got to have a superpower or they can't be a hero. They can't be the champion. That was basically the tone of it. The tattoos that they wear, basically, they get superpowers with them, which is just dumb. And Raiden was like, Sonya didn't have one. And he's like, oh, no, you can't be a champion because you don't have superpowers. That's not a movie. That's not a narrative. That's not a story. Like, people want to watch movies and narratives about, like, little people overcoming insurmountable odds. I mean, the original Mortal Kombat has that. Like, when Johnny Cage, like, did the split kick to Goro, that was badass. And, like, everybody was cheering. Even Raiden was cheering. I mean, because nobody expected Johnny Cage to beat Goro. I mean, it was a cool movie. But this new Mortal Kombat, they introduced a new character, the Cole Young. Here's a spoiler warning if you want to mute your mic now, but he's apparently a descendant of Scorpion. Why? Like, why did they need him? What is it with these remake movies? And I don't mean for this podcast to turn into a rant, but I'm just really pissed off about a lot of things like this. Like, this is one subject that really pisses me off. Why do these movies need new characters when the characters from the source material suffice just fine? Why did you need Mila Jovovich in the Resident Evil series? It could have been Jill Valentine the entire time. Why do you need this idiot Cole Young in Mortal Kombat? It could have been Johnny Cage the entire time. Like, why do people feel they need to invent characters for source material because it's too geeky. Oh, it's a video game. It's not worthy of our cinematic fervor here unless we make an original character with an original story. Well, let me tell you something, buddy. Your original character sucked. Like, the character in this Mortal Kombat movie sucked. He was pointless and boring and stupid, and you're saving Johnny Cage for the sequel. Like, he should have been in the original movie. What was the point of this Mortal Kombat remake except to show off the 3 fatalities that you had in the whole movie? There was no other point of this movie to exist. There's no explanation. There's no reason that Mortal Kombat needs to exist. I'm sorry. It just, I saw this the other day and it just really, I mean, Goro was cool. Like, he looked cool. But why did they fight in a garage? Like, they fought in this guy's house. This no-name guy who is Scorpion's descendant, when Scorpion might as well just be the whole damn hero of it. And didn't they do, like, Mortal Kombat Legacy? Like, wasn't Scorpion like a protagonist in that? Like, that was cool. Leave it at that. So this all started with Matrix Resurrections. I'm circling back, because it just really got me on a tangent about movies that I don't think should exist. Video game adaptations with fresh, original characters should not exist. Stop making this crap. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Keep making Marvel movies. Indie filmmakers, keep making awesome indie movies. But Hollywood, stop making this derivative shit. Nobody asked for it. Nobody wants it. You can tell from the numbers that nobody watches them. How many times do you actually need to lose money before you realize that maybe what people want is something new and fresh and something that takes a chance? Maybe at least this new Resident Evil movie, say what you want about it, I heard it got terrible reviews, but at least it focuses somewhat on the source material. I know they jammed like Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 into the same movie. Don't know how they did that, but at least they tried. They made an attempt to stay true to the source material. Mario, that had nothing to do with the source material. All I had was the Mushroom Kingdom was in it. Yoshi was in it, sort of. There was a mushroom, I think. There was a bomb in it. There was a character named Mario. There was a character named Luigi. There was a character named Koopa, not even Bowser. There was a character named Big Bertha, Iggy and Spike. There was a Daisy. There was no Toadstool, but there was a Daisy. There was Toad, who was a Goomba. That was about it. That was as close to Mario as that ever got, but there was no really truthful adaptation of the source material. Even the Sonic movie, original characters in that. And okay, I guess Sonic movie gets a pass because it's a hedgehog and you need some humanity in it, right? God forbid you make a movie with a bunch of hedgehogs, right? Oh my God, nobody would watch that. I mean, who watched Watership Down? Nobody, right? So I get it. You have to interject some humanity into it. You got to put Scott Marsden in it, the original Cyclops in it, which are awesome. Those movies should have been made. I agree. Those movies should have been made, except maybe the third X-Men movie. That should not have been made. But that'll get a pass for me because, all right, I get it. You didn't want to make a complete CG movie with, just Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, whatever. That's fine. But, the Resident Evil movies did not need to have... They didn't need to exist at all. They had Claire Redfield in one of them. Wesker started showing up, and Jill was in the second one, but it was all based on this original story arc from Lilu Dallas. It just didn't need to exist. Like, I understand. I think there were licensing rights with that too, but if you're not going to get the license, just don't make it. Remakes of remakes. Why are you remaking remakes that were already made within the past, 2 decades? If you're going to remake a movie, fine. Wait, 30, 40 years before you remake it. You don't remake The Thing just to remake it again in the 2010s. You don't remake Black Christmas in 2009 just to make it again in, 2019. Stop remaking movies within the same decade. It is stupid. The generations are not that far removed. The kid who saw Black Christmas in 2009 was still young enough to see it, the remake in 2019, to realize this is full of crap. This does not need to exist. The other one was just fine. Please don't touch Escape from New York. Leave that alone. Kurt Russell was excellent. There's not going to be another Snake Plissken. I know they were talking about this a long time ago, or like a Escape from Chicago or something, but please just leave Escape from New York alone. I'm glad that you haven't touched that franchise. I'm very glad that that franchise has not been remade. It's all horror movies. I mean, what? They've remade Nightmare on Elm Street. They've remade Halloween. They've remade Friday the 13th. They've remade Child's Play. They have not remade Leprechaun, fortunately. And Leprechaun it's nothing special. I don't care if they remake Leprechaun. But Warwick Davis is just like the only good thing about those movies. What else have they remade? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They remade The Last House on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. I mean, why did you just stop? I need to take a breath. So I don't know. What about you guys? What movies do you think should or should not exist? Tell me. I'm curious. I want to know. I think we've covered a lot of them. Now I know there's going to be another side of this. I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism for this, which is fine because there has to be an audience out there that likes these movies, right? Like they can't just keep making these movies if people aren't asking for them. But if you are in that minority, if you do like these remakes, which remakes did you like? Which ones are you okay with? Which ones did you ask for? I already mentioned that Child's Play. I think that had a pretty good reception. As far as remakes, did I like any? Very, very few did I care for. The Last House on the Left, I thought was okay. I didn't think that was a terrible remake. It had some cool scenes in it. The original Halloween that was reimagined, the first one, I guess with Judy Greer, I think that was pretty decent. Jurassic World, I like that franchise. Star Wars, just because it's Star Wars, doesn't mean I'm particularly fond of The Last Jedi or The Return of Skywalker. The Force Awakens was good in the sense that it didn't really destroy anything. It was basically just like a rehash of A New Hope. It just kind of had a nostalgia to it. It didn't necessarily ruin anything. Yeah, and the reason I think that The Force Awakens probably didn't ruin anything is because it set up expectations that were later ruined by the sequels. I mean, you could watch The Force Awakens and be like, oh, this is cool. Like, oh, yeah, Captain Phasma, she's going to be an awesome character. Like, Finn, he seems like he's going to be a cool character, an ex-stormtrooper. And Rey, oh, who is she? She's got to be a Skywalker. She's got to be somebody's daughter. No, she's Palpatine's granddaughter after the second movie said that she was nothing. All right, just consistency, please. But I have no problem with that. I have no problem with setting off ideas or setting off a franchise. It's once you get into that franchise when things start to fall apart that really, really starts to bog you down. And it sucks. It kind of spoils the originals. I know I like The Force Awakens. I'll still watch it. After The Last Jedi, I was kind of done with it. I don't think Mark Hamill would disagree with me either. But there's really hasn't been a lot of remakes that I cared for. Honestly, I'm at a loss. I really cannot think of many reboots or remakes that I liked other than the obvious, right? The Thing was an excellent, awesome remake, but that doesn't even count because that was like a 50s movie. Like there was a good amount of time passed between those movies. I mean, that came out in the 80s? So that was like over 30 years that took? It wasn't like A Nightmare on Elm Street came out when I was a kid and then came out again while I was still a young man. Like, at least wait till I'm pissing in my pants before you remake The Green Mile. That's all I'm asking for. Before John Coffey is heading into the electric chair, wait till I'm old before you do that. Well, The Shining, that got actually a sequel, which was pretty good. I liked it. And the reason that was good was because the original source material, created the sequel himself. Kind of like the Lost World Jurassic Park, right? It's interesting when there's sequels that are successful, it's usually because the original creator had something to do with it. Alien becomes Aliens, right? There's something in common there. But when you're just some random jerk who remakes A Nightmare on Elm Street without Robert Englund, what are you contributing to the film community? The Mummy. Why did that movie exist? I know, I think it was because, Universal wanted to do the whole Dark Universal franchise thing that just never worked out, but the Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser did not come out that long ago, and that was that's a watchable movie. You could actually sit down and watch The Mummy again today, and it's not like it doesn't age well. Like, it ages fine. You can watch it, you can still enjoy it. You didn't need to remake The Mummy because The Mummy was fine. Now, I mean, once you get into like The Rock and like The Scorpion King, all right, that's different. But the original Mummy, you can watch that now. You didn't need to remake that. I mean, it's cool that they did want to do sort of a Universal thing, but haven't they done that like forever? Like Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is probably the greatest like collaboration of monsters you're ever going to find in a movie. I mean, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein is just, you're never going to top that. Not only did you have like the two greatest comedians like probably ever, but you had Bela Lugosi as Dracula, you had Boris Karloff as Frankenstein, you had Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. You had them all in the same movie, that was it. You're never going to top that. You don't need any more of this Dark Universal stuff. Well, speaking of which, that was a good remake. I did like The Invisible Man. I thought The Invisible Man was a really cool remake because it was psychological. It was creepy. You know, it was just full of gaslighting, and I've always had a fear of somebody living in my attic. And that movie actually brought that fear into fruition. But that was all right. So I liked the Invisible Man remake. I thought that was pretty good. I liked The Thing. I liked The Last House on the Left was okay, I thought. It's not a very big list here, guys, with these remakes, these reimaginings, these reboots. Because I'm never going to walk out of a reboot, a reimagining, a rehash, a sequel. I'm going to say, man, I'm so glad that movie was made. You know, the original movie was just so terrible. Did nothing for me that they needed to remake this movie. No, I'm never going to say that. Nobody's ever going to say that. You're going to walk out of a remake movie and you're going to say, wasn't that bad, or it sucked. That's what you're going to say. The most positive reaction you're going to have to coming out of a remake or reboot was, that was okay. Wasn't that bad. With the exception, with a rare exception of, like, you know, let's say the huge franchises, like, you know, your Jurassic Worlds or even the Star Wars. I hate to say it, but you know, you still have, you know, you still have reasons to see them. But for the most part, you're not going to come out of any of these rehashes thinking, wow, you know, that was incredible. That was really worth waiting another 10 years to make. Like, 10 years ago, this was a cool movie, but it's just even better now. Never going to say that. Never going to happen. Maybe the new Scream movie that's coming out, maybe that will prove me wrong. Maybe that'll be better than the original. I don't know. Maybe if they make a new Pumpkinhead movie, that'll really top the original, and I'll be glad. They are making a new Jeepers Creepers movie, so we'll see how that goes. That was kind of a creepy movie. I don't care much for the director because of his sordid criminal history there. Google it if you don't know. But they're making another one of those, which is fine. I'm okay of them remaking movies that weren't really that great to begin with. Like Black Christmas, I don't think was even that great to begin with. Go ahead, remake that 10, 100 times as you like. I still think it's stupid. I still think it doesn't need to exist, but go ahead, do what you will. And I'm not talking about like series. Like I'm not talking about like James Bond's, because that's like a series of movies. Like yeah, that's just the point of James Bond is he's sort of an immortal character. He's a legacy. He lives on. You know, there's a James Bond for every generation. That's not what I'm talking about. That's perfectly fine. No, it's this crap. Like Judge Dredd, I don't care that you remade that because the original was terrible anyway. So that's fine. Remake Judge Dredd all you want. Total Recall, not like a critically like untouchable movie. Like, oh, you can't remake Total Recall. I don't think it was really did anything. Here's what I encourage: anybody that wants to revisit source material, read the original material. I don't want to sound like a snob, like, oh, I read the book first, but I've discovered this. Like, I've actually been listening to the audiobook of Jurassic Park. Never read it before in my life. Saw the movie first before I ever read the book. But I'm actually, I'm actually enjoying it. It's nice to sort of get back to kind of delve deeper into, what they actually couldn't convey in the movies. Like, that's more valuable to me than a remake. Like, remake or reprint the book, reprint the source material, which don't get me wrong, sometimes that does happen. Like now that like Resurrections has come out, like The Matrix I saw was like, streaming on Netflix. Like that's good. Like if a remake is gonna perhaps reinvigorate interest in the source material, I can give it a pass, I guess. Like that's my opinion with Sonic. And that's why I'm not being hard on Sonic as maybe I should be. But I feel like the Sonic movie exists now just to sort of renew that interest in the franchise and Sonic the Hedgehog, which is not a bad thing, which is a good thing. So, I mean, it was an okay movie. I don't think it was anything special. It was cool to see a Sonic movie finally. But I think that's existing to sort of reinvigorated interest in it. That's okay. If you're planning bigger and better things for the source material, that's cool. Like, fine. If you're going to remake Escape from New York, don't. But if you want this like anniversary, like re-release of the original film, if you want to have a reunion with the surviving cast members, I mean, if you want to do a lot of cool things with the original Escape from New York, you just renew interest in that. That's then fine. Remake it. Just try your best to say something new with it. Don't try to retell the same story. Don't try to change it drastically either. Like, don't try to like be all the Last Jedi with it. Like, Star Wars was perfectly fine the way it was. Like, we didn't need you to flip the conventional Star Wars, upside down. We didn't need you to reinvent the genre of the space opera. Nobody asked you to reinvent Star Wars. Nobody wanted you to. That's a movie you leave alone. Star Wars exists because it's nostalgia. It is fun. It is perfect the way, and it's not perfect. Everybody's given George Lucas his fair share of criticism, but nobody was asking for Star Wars to be turned on its head, reimagined, brought to looked at from a different lens, a different perspective. And I know, isn't that what you're gonna say? Like storytelling, that's what storytelling's about. Yes and no. At least James Joyce had the common courtesy to wait thousands of years before retelling the Odyssey. That's all you got to do. That's all I'm asking. If you take anything away from this podcast, it is this: wait for 1,000 years before you remake something that doesn't need to be remade. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm glad you actually tuned in to me, joined in, and I had a lot of fun doing this. I think I'm going to keep it up, and it was a good discussion. Definitely interested in reading your comments, but thanks guys, and I'll see you. Hopefully I'm going to have a new Let's Play episode up for Sunday, if I'm not making these podcasts. But have a good night, guys. Thanks.